Hello, thanks for joining in. Game week 28. It's getting close. 5 hours, a bit earlier deadline stream than usual. Have some plans this evening, so that's the reason why I'm going a bit earlier. So please go vote in the captain poll. I still haven't decided who will be my captain for game week 28. It's between Bruno Fernandes at home against Crystal Palace, a tired Crystal Palace. It's Erling Haaland, of course, playing against Leeds, and Igor Thiago playing against Burnley. Captain O'Reilly or Van Dijk? Ooh. I think I would probably, if you decided between O'Reilly or Van Dijk, I think I would probably go for Van Dijk because of the safety. He will definitely start, can pick up attacking returns, can get defensive contributions. Of course, it's tempting with O'Reilly considering he scored a brace in game with 27, but I think you're already taking a punt if it's between O'Reilly and Van Dijk, and I think I would go for the safest option, which is probably Van Dijk at this point. So at home against West Ham, this could be a good fixture for Van Dijk. Django or Schade for free hit? I think I would go for Schade if it's... I think Django is probably better value, but if it's between Django and Schade, and if you can afford both of them, I would probably just go for Kevin Schade. Play a back five with Gabriel, Van Dijk, Timber, Dalot, and Hill, and bench Enzo, or sell Enzo to Django, Otara, and bench one of Timber, Dalot, Hill. I think that Enzo Fernandez is a sell at this point. He was, of course, a really interesting option, but now Cole Palmer is back playing most minutes, taking some set pieces from Enzo Fernandez, and the fact that they have really tough fixtures as well, I think it's probably best to just sell Enzo Fernandez. At least this is what I have done ahead of game week 28. I sold Enzo Fernandez and brought in Harry Wilson. So you can potentially wait one more game week and just bench Enzo this game week and have a bit more information heading into game week 29. So considering that you have Gabriel, Van Dijk, Timber, Dalot, Hill, all of them really good options, I think I would just play a back five and bench Enzo. So Enzo Fernandez can easily be sold next game week, so this is probably what I would have done. So I've actually made 3 free transfers. I sold Jared Bowen to bring in Ekitike. I sold Enzo Fernandez to bring in Wilson, and I actually used a transfer on my goalkeeper as well. I usually don't like spending transfers on my goalkeepers, but considering the fixtures for Chelsea, I sold Sanchez to bring in Keller. Really good fixtures for Brentford. The reason why I went for Wilson instead of the likes of Kevin Schade, Django, Tara is mostly because I already have Igor Thiago in my team, so now I have cover from Fulham attack, and of course Igor Thiago covers the Brentford attack as well. So Thiago, Harry Wilson, really good options going forward. Thoughts on my free hit team? Dubravka, Van Dijk, O'Reilly, Maguire, Mbumo, Bruno Fernandes, Salah, Schade, Semenyo, Haaland, and Igor Thiago. Any changes or recommended players? I really like this free hit. I actually made a free hit widow, and it's pretty similar to this one. I don't have Dubravka in goal, but I have actually included Salah in my game week 28 free hit draft as well. I think he potentially can be an interesting captain punt, but he didn't really impress in game week 27, so it's probably enough just to have Salah in your team. Schade, Semenyo, Haaland, Igor Thiago, really good options. Can potentially consider someone like, for the differential, someone like Jimenez up front, possibly on penalties for Fulham, playing at home against Spurs. But I think that having a triple up on Man United probably is a good idea. We saw that Crystal Palace, they looked tired yesterday as well, They will have a tough game against Man United this weekend, so only went to Dubravka because I need someone cheap. So potentially this team looks really, really good. If you have any funds available, I would consider doing something with Dubravka, possibly to upgrade Dubravka to someone like Kelleher. Seeing that you only have 2 Brentford players in this team, it's probably a good idea to target the Burnley fixture for Brentford. Can't really see Brentford keeping a clean sheet in this one, so I'm sorry, can't really see Burnley keeping a clean sheet in this one. And you have Igor Thiago playing against, you have both Schade and Igor Thiago playing against Dubravka. So really good team, but I would look at possibilities to upgrade the goalkeeper to someone else. So if you don't have any funds available, you can potentially do something like Schade to Harry Wilson and upgrade Dubravka to Kelleher. If you have any more funds available, it's of course an option to bring in the Aston Villa goalkeeper Martinez as well. Good fixture for them playing against Wolves. They have struggled recently in front of goals, so can potentially see a clean sheet for Aston Villa. We take a look at the bookies predicted clean sheets this game week. Man United, they are actually in front, 51% chance of a clean sheet. Arsenal against Chelsea, they are actually top 2 Arsenal, even though the fixture is kind of tough playing against Chelsea. And we have Brentford against Burnley on third with 48% chance of a clean sheet for Brentford. So upgrading Dubravka to Kelleher would potentially be a good move for that free hit team. But I like the structure of the team. I like the inclusion of Mo Salah double up in midfield from Man United with Maguire in as well. So hopefully this will lead to a green arrow in game week 28. So if you're interested in having your team reviewed, of course you can just post your team in the chat. It's also possible to head over to X, post a picture of your team selection, and we'll get your team up on the screen. So head over to X, find this post, the game week 28 deadline stream. Just post a picture in the comments. Also, thoughts on Sesko. It looks likely that Sesko will continue playing. He is one of the bookies' favorites to score this game week as well. Is he a really good FPL asset to bring in? I'm not really convinced. I would like to see him start even more games before considering Sesko as an FPL option. But of course, he can do really, really well in game week 28 in isolation. But I think there are a couple of other really interesting forwards at the moment. We saw this with Raul Jimenez. We have the likes of Erling Haaland, Ekitike, a bit more expensive, of course, but really, really good upcoming fixtures. And of course, Igor Thiago in that same category. So bringing in Sesko, I think that I would potentially just stick with the Man United midfielders that like Mbumo, like Bruno Fernandes, Cunha. So Sesko, of course, a differential, but I think I would stick with the midfielders. Who to vice captain out of Semenyo and Watkins, and start one of Tarkowski and Guehi? I think I would go for Guehi to start and vice captain. Most of the times the vice captain doesn't really count, but I think I would actually go for differential vice captain Watkins. So the fixture is not that bad for Aston Villa this game week, playing against Wolves, so that could potentially be interesting. So who is your captain? And if you haven't done so already, please go vote in the poll. It's really close between Erling Haaland and Bruno Fernandes. It's actually dead race between them. Would you consider downgrading Mbumo to fund for Ekitike? Yes, seeing that you already have a double up on Man United with Maguire in Bruno Fernandes. Mbumo to a differential and bring in Ekitike can potentially be a solid option. Jacketsku, should I buy Bruno Fernandes and Hill or Django and Van Dijk? I got money for both options, but the latter one would leave me more leverage for my future transfers. 1.9 million versus 4 million in the bank. I think I would go for Bruno Fernandes, to be honest. Bruno Fernandes nailed on Man United on most set pieces. Hill, really good value as well. Only priced at 4 million, so I think this is really good value. Of course, bringing in Django, Otara, and Van Dijk is, you're spreading the funds a bit more, but I really like Bruno Fernandes and Hill going forward. So all four of them really good options, but if I had to pick one of them, it would be Bruno Fernandes and Hill. Palmer, Ekitike, or Salah, Evan Nilsson. So is this for a free hit, or are you considering to bring them in? Or do you already have Palmer, Ekitike and considering to make the move to bring in Salah, Evan Nilsson, or vice versa? Need a bit more context to answer this one. So I have made 3 confirmed transfers ahead of GW28. I've sold Jared Bowen to bring in Ekitike myself, so obviously I think that he is a solid option going forward. I know he has been disappointing for his owners. A lot of blanks for Ekitike, but considering the fixtures, I think that he can do well. He has good attacking stats as well, so I think that both Ekitike and his FPL owners, they have actually been a bit unlucky recently. So hopefully Ekitike can start scoring in game week 28. I have Cole Palmer, Evan Nilsson, and with one free transfer, I want a Liverpool asset. I actually like the idea of bringing in and selling Cole Palmer to afford Mo Salah. It is a big differential. I know he disappointed in game week 27. He actually was subbed off early as well, but all it takes for Mo Salah is a good start to the game week 28 fixture against West Ham. So if they get a penalty as well, this would mean points for Mo Salah. So I think I would actually go for the option with Mo Salah. Of course, Cole Palmer, he is kind of similar. He is on set pieces, including penalties for Chelsea, but considering the fixtures, I would actually go for Mo Salah. We've seen this with Cole Palmer as well. He's not a 90 minutes man at the moment, so think I would actually upgrade Cole Palmer to Mo Salah. So it's 5 hours left until the deadline. I'm going a bit earlier today because I have some plans later today, so not an option for me to have the stream on the actual deadline. So a couple of hours earlier than usual, but let me know if you have any questions ahead of the GW28 deadline. I have already made my transfers, 3 transfers confirmed. I sold GW Bowen to bring in Ekitike. I sold Enzo Fernandez to bring in Harry Wilson and made a goalkeeper transfer, a rare goalkeeper transfer, sold Sanchez to bring in Kelleher. Changed my free hit to Kelleher, Madsen, Van Dijk, O'Reilly, Django, Tara, Bruno Fernandes, Salah, Semenyo, Thiago, Allen, and Ekitike. I think I would prefer this free hit, to be honest. You have a couple of differentials in, better goalkeeper as well. And Ekitike, I think this is a really good fixture for Liverpool playing at home against West Ham. So tripling up on Liverpool can potentially be a really good differential this game week. So Van Dijk, Salah, Ekitike looks really good. Double up on the Brentford attack against Burnley. Django, Tara, Igor, Thiago. Holland is in, Bruno Fernandes. So really solid options. I like the inclusion of Madsen as well. He has looked good for Aston Villa recently, and the fixture is good playing against Wolves. So I really like the free team. So as mentioned, I have confirmed my transfers ahead of GW28, but I'm still not sure who will be my captain. It's between Erling Haaland, Bruno Fernandes, and Igor Thiago. So please go vote in the captain poll. At the moment, it's really close still. It's between Erling Haaland, Bruno Fernandes, 33% of the votes each. And we have Igor Thiago with 8%. So if you're going to captain someone else, please let me know in the chat. Erling Haaland, he is the bookie's favorite ahead of game week 28. 56% chance of a Haaland goal against Leeds. So he usually is the bookie's favorite, but we have seen recently that Gyökeres and Igor Thiago, they have been really close, but this game week, as mentioned, Erling Haaland favorite 56%. Ekitike is second with 50%, and we have Igor Thiago at 48% chance of a goal against Burnley. So those are not my predictions. It's taken from the bookies. So definitely solid options. I will actually own all 3 of them this game week. Ekitike, Haaland up front, with Igor Thiago. At the moment, my captain is Erling Haaland. He is definitely the safest option, but I'm really tempted by Bruno Fernandes and Igor Thiago as well. So please go vote in the captain poll. Who do you think is the best captain option? So at the moment, Erling Haaland 36%, 36% for Bruno Fernandes as well. This was a bit lower earlier, so they have actually gotten a couple of extra votes, both of them. And Igor Thiago, he is down to 7%. The most sold players, actually yesterday we had other players on the list, but today we only have Arsenal players on the most transferred out list. It's Enzo Fernandez, Chalobah, and João Pedro. So of course it's tempting to sell. They have really tough fixtures, and especially in game week 28. Fixture can't be much tougher playing away against Arsenal. So 3 of the most sold players ahead of game week 28 are Chelsea players. Best replacement for Florian Wirtz. So if you really want to stay in the Liverpool category, I think that probably Szoboszlai is the best replacement. But my transfer in this game week was Harry Wilson. I think that he is a really good option considering the fixtures. And when you have the Brentford midfield duo with Django Ouattara and Kevin Schade as well, I really like the value of Harry Wilson and Django Ouattara. So they are probably my favorites at the moment. So considering value, I think Django, Harry Wilson potentially are the best replacements for Florian Wirtz. And this will let you upgrade in other areas of your team, will free up some funds. So I think that if you have Igor Thiago already, I think you should go for Harry Wilson. But if you don't have Igor Thiago, I think Django Ouattara should be considered. So I mentioned that the top 3 transferred out players, all Chelsea assets, Enzo Fernandez, Chalobah, João Pedro. So even though all of them are fit and will probably start in game week 28, they are the most transferred out players ahead of game week 28. We take a look at most transferred in. We have Virgil van Dijk topping the list, over 500k transfers in, and we have O'Reilly and Igor Thiago as well. So even if Igor Thiago, he blanked in game week 27, but he is top 3 for most transfers in. Of course, Van Dijk 17 points in game week 26, 11 points in game week 27. So really makes sense considering the fixtures to bring in Van Dijk at the moment. O'Reilly, of course, scored a brace in game week 27. Thing is that we take a look at O'Reilly, he will blank in blank game week 31. So I think if you triple up on Arsenal, if you already have the likes of Semenyo, Erling Haaland, potentially Crystal Palace assets as well, I would actually avoid bringing in O'Reilly ahead of this game week. But if you have a plan to navigate blank game week 31, of course, O'Reilly, he can continue picking up points, but would be a bit annoying, of course, if you can't field 11 players in blank game week 31, or if you have to take hits to field 11 men in blank game week 31. Hello, mate, football and stuff. Thanks for joining in. We have a Brighton expert in the chat, so if you have any questions about Brighton, do you think Van Hecke is definitely nailed on to start this game week, mate. I actually considered bringing in Verbruggen last night, but I sold Sanchez and I went for Keller. One of the reasons, of course, is the fact that I already have Van Hecke in. I'm really excited for game week 28, to be honest. I will watch the game tonight, hoping that Rodgers finally can deliver some FPL points. Friday night game, Wolves against Aston Villa. So I definitely think we discussed a free hit earlier. I definitely like the inclusion of Madsen. It will give you a player to watch this evening as well. So picking a differential that plays on Friday night. I like the idea of that. So for me, I will have Rodgers playing tonight. And I have Mosquera on the bench. So Mosquera, he is actually one of those players that will blank game week 31. So at the moment, I will have to sell a couple of my players before blank game week 31. So I already sold Timber, but I still have Gabriel, Rice, Holland, and Mosquera. The players I would most probably sell is Mosquera and Rice. Mosquera can easily become someone like Hill from Bournemouth. Rice, potentially someone like Django Otara at some point. Or potentially Florian Wirtz if he's back for game week 29. Thoughts on Soboslai? Looks like Wirtz won't play. I think it's confirmed that Florian Wirtz will not play in game week 28. So if you really want to cover the Liverpool attack, I think that Soboslai potentially is a solid option. But I talked about this like 10 minutes ago. I think that potentially Harry Wilson and Django Otara are even better value compared to Soboslai. But of course, Soboslai, if you don't have any Liverpool cover, I think that he is a solid option as well. He's on corners. I can't really see him continue scoring free kicks like he has done recently. But the thing is that with Florian Wirtz confirmed to be out, he will potentially play a bit more further up the pitch as well. So Soboslai can potentially be a really good option for game week 28. Salam, thanks for joining in. We're at Cooley. So it's 4 hours and 45 minutes until the deadline. I'm going a bit earlier than usual this game week 28 deadline stream. The reason is I have some plans later this evening, so not able to sit out through the actual deadline, so a couple of hours earlier. Will Soboslai be at central attacking midfielder in the number 10 spot? So at least he is predicted to play in that role with Florian Wirtz being out. So of course it's hard to guarantee, but at least he's in the predicted starting 11 playing as a number 10 with Florian Wirtz out. So another thing that makes Soboslai a bit more interesting is the fact that Frimpong, he is fit, so he will play as well. So I think this potentially is good news for Soboslai owners and the FPL managers considering to bring in Soboslai ahead of game week 28. But another thing is that the Florian Wirtz injury doesn't really sound that serious, so potentially in game week 29 he can be back. Remember that there is a quick turnaround between game week 28 and game week 29. So the game week 29 deadline is on Tuesday. So only a couple of days between the deadlines. So potentially for Liverpool, they will rest Florian Wirtz this weekend and have him ready for the game in midweek. But of course, nothing confirmed. All we know at this point is that he most probably will miss game week 28. Please go vote in the captain poll as well. So in the first 15 minutes, it was really, really close between Erling Haaland and Bruno Fernandes. But right now, Erling Haaland, he is in the lead 57%. Bruno Fernandes, 26%. Only 4% for Igor Thiago. And the other category is on 13%. So if you vote for other, please let me know who will be your captain in the chat. So at the moment, Erling Haaland, he is my captain, but I'm tempted by a captain punt this game week. So we know that Crystal Palace, they played yesterday. So tired legs will play against Man United at the Old Trafford on Sunday. So this can potentially be a really, really good fixture for Man United. So I'm tempted by Bruno Fernandes. The thing is that he can potentially play deeper in this fixture. Igor Thiago, we know that he will play up front for Brentford. He is on penalties, will be close to the goal. So I'm tempted by Igor Thiago as well. But in the poll, Igor Thiago, only 4 votes for him. Erling Haaland, as mentioned, he is the favorite with 57% of the votes so far. So if you're interested in having your team reviewed, head over to X, post a picture of your team selection, and we'll get it up on the screen. There we go. Hello, my friend. I don't know if you remember me, but it has been a long time since I asked you for Wildcard on game week 24. Hello, my friend. Don't know if you remember me. There's something familiar with your username, but did I forget to ask one of your questions? If so, I'm terribly sorry. I have become first in my mini league for 9 points and top 500k. So it's a success story. Nice. So you got tips for your game week 24 wildcard, and now you're top of your mini league and top 500k. Nice. So on the screen, we have Virat Kohli's team, Dubravka in goal playing against Brentford. We have Hill, Gabriel, Tarkovsky, Rice, Sar, Rogers, and Bumo. Igor Thiago, Krupe Jr., Erling Haaland, who is currently the captain as well. Anderson on the bench, the injured Florian Wirtz and the injured Mukiele. Sanchez on the bench as well. Did you post how many transfers and how much you have in the bank? You probably did. I forgot to check. I can't find it. So please let me know how many transfers you have and how much you have in the bank. No free transfers. So is it worth taking a hit with this team? Let's have a closer look. So we have Dubravka playing against Igor Thiago. Not ideal, but of course it can work out. Rice in midfield with Sar, Rogers, and Bumo. Krupe Jr. double up on Bournemouth against Sunderland. I think this potentially is a good picture for Bournemouth. Igor Thiago against Burnley, captain Erling Haaland. Tarkovsky away against Newcastle, not ideal, but I think I actually would go for Anderson instead of Tarkovsky, but Tarkovsky has that attacking threat as well, so 0.7 in the bank. I'm not sure if I would take a hit with this team. It looks all right. I mentioned Dubravka against Igor Thiago is not ideal, but with no free transfers, I think I would just go for this team, to be honest. I think Sar, he played 90 minutes yesterday. But with Florian Wirtz injured, Michele injured as well, I think it makes sense benching Sanchez. So even though I mentioned Dubravka against Igor Thiago a couple of times, I think it makes sense just starting Dubravka. At least he's playing at home, right? Thank you very much for your thoughts. It helped me to climb into that first position. The only negative was Enzo Fernandez and a triple captain Gabriel. Enzo Fernandez, he hasn't really delivered. I actually have had Enzo Fernandez in my own team as well. I actually sold him ahead of this game week, so I did for my own team Enzo Fernandez to Harry Wilson ahead of this game week. Liverpool defense 0.7, so you can potentially bring in Liverpool defense with this team. Michele can potentially be sold. What you can do with 0.7 is probably just Michele to Konate. I'm not sure if this is worth it, to be honest. No easy way to bring in Van Dijk. So we have to sell Gabriel, but I'm not sure if this is worth it. Any chance to do Timber to Van Dijk, Chalobah to Hill? I actually really like, if you have both Timber and Chalobah in your team, I really like the idea of selling Timber and Chalobah to bring in Van Dijk and Hill. So Van Dijk, of course, he has done really well in both game week 26 and game week 27. So 17 points and then 11 points last game week as well. So Van Dijk, really solid option. We know he will play close to 90 minutes, can pick up defensive contributions, attacking returns. And with those fixtures, I expect Liverpool to keep a couple of clean sheets as well. So Van Dijk in. Hill, I think he's really good value as well. Only priced at 4 million, so one of the best value defenders on offer at the moment. Who's your captain this week? I'm going for Bruno Fernandes. At the moment, I'm still on Erling Haaland, but I'm really tempted by Bruno Fernandes and Thiago as well. Let's have a look at the captain poll. Erling Haaland, he is the favorite, 54%, 27 for Bruno Fernandes, only 4% for Igor Thiago. So with this team, Virat Kohli, I think it's kind of hard to bring in Liverpool defenders without. So of course you don't have any transfers, so I wouldn't take a -8 to bring in Van Dijk this game week. Rob Tuff, my bench is Ruffs, Abraham plus the injured Mukiele and Brobby. Should I roll or take a hit? 8.6 million in the bank. So if you're satisfied with your starting 11, I think you potentially just should roll. 8.6 in the bank is of course a lot, but you have Tammy Abraham on the bench. Good picture for Aston Villa playing against Wolves, so at least you have one player that potentially can do well. We know Mukiele and Brobby, they will not play. So I think if you're satisfied with your starting 11, I would just save the transfer and reassess ahead of game week 29. Thoughts on Kirkis as a one week punt? Not the worst idea. I haven't really spent that much time checking up on Kirkis, to be honest, but of course he has done reasonably well. He will potentially, he's in the predicted starting 11 at least for Liverpool, so at home against West Ham, if you're on a free hit, this can potentially be a good differential move. I have 4 free transfers right now, but I'm a bit aware of that the blank in game week 31. How many transfers would you suggest me to do to the players that I want to sell? Enzo, Joao Pedro, Munoz, and Rodgers. So for this game week, I would definitely just keep Rodgers. Friday night fixture against Aston Villa, I think this potentially can be a good one for Rodgers. So Munoz against Man United, potentially someone to consider selling. Probably first priority as well, considering that he is one of those players that will blank in blank game week 31. So Munoz would be first priority. Enzo Fernandez would be second on my list. Joao Pedro, he has done well, but the fixtures will get really tough for Chelsea coming up. So my first priority will be to sell Munoz, then Enzo, then Joao Pedro, and finally Rodgers. If you want me to send the full team, I would write it to you. Yeah, definitely. If you're interested, go ahead, write your team in the chat. If you're interested in having your team reviewed, and if you have a picture of your team, it's possible to post on X as well, like Virat Kohli has done. So on the screen at the moment, Virat Kohli's team, looking at possible ways to bring in Liverpool defenders, but with no free transfers, my advice with this team is actually to just save a transfer. To bring in Van Dijk would mean selling Gabriel or taking a -8 hit, and I'm not sure if this is worth it. So as mentioned, head over to X, post a picture of your team. Find this post. It's the GW28 deadline stream. Just post a picture in the comments and I'll get your team up on the screen for some discussion. Ooh, I just need one single transfer, selling Tarkovsky to Van Dijk. Ooh, this... I think I actually would consider something like this, to be honest. Sorry, Virat Kohli. Somehow I missed the option to just sell Tarkovsky. Of course, Tarkovsky's price is... Tarkovsky started at 5.5, of course. So Tarkovsky to Van Dijk. So to be honest, Tarkovsky to Van Dijk, considering the fixtures, this is probably a yes for me, even though it's for a minus. For Kirkis or Konate on a free hit can't afford Van Dijk unless I downgrade Django Otara. So I think Django Otara is really good value at 5.9. So I really like, considering this is a free hit as well, to take a punt on the likes of, I think Kirkis could be a really good option on a free hit. I'm not sure if I would use a transfer and bringing in Kirkis, but on a free hit, I think Kirkis is a really good option. So keep Django Otara, bring in Kirkis. Fingers crossed. The thing is that I actually like the -4 for Van Dijk this game week, considering that Tarkovsky is playing against Newcastle. So Van Dijk, he can easily outscore Tarkovsky this game week. At least he has the odds on his side, right? So considering that Everton, they actually have a tough game against Newcastle. Liverpool playing at home against West Ham, and you're bringing in a pretty safe player, so it's probably worth the -4. At some point, you will want Van Dijk in your team, right? Considering those good fixtures. So I think this is one of the times that it's actually worth taking a -4. Can you send me the link to the deadline 28 post? Yes, let's see. That should be possible. Hopefully that works. So this is my team. At the moment, I have actually made the 3 free transfers ahead of gameweek28. I sold Jad Bowen to bring in Ekitike. I sold Enzo Fernandez to bring in Harry Wilson, and I actually spent a transfer on my goalkeeper, so sold the Chelsea goalkeeper Sanchez to bring in Kelleher. Hopefully this will be enough for a green arrow this game week. So I still have a couple of players that I need to sell ahead of game week 31. So game week 31 will be a blank game week. So Man City, Arsenal, Crystal Palace and Wolves, they will not have a fixture in blank game week 31. At this point, I have Gabriel, Rice, Erling Haaland and Mosquera all blanking. So I need to sell at least one of those players to field 11 starters in game week 31. So at the moment, my plan is to sell Mosquera and to sell Rice and just keep Gabriel and Erling Haaland on the bench. I have made a video with an update on the blanks and upcoming doubles. So if you're interested, it's linked in the description down below. I have made a video. Well, it's the same video I talk about chip strategy as well. So my plan at the moment is to just navigate blank game week 31 with my transfers, wildcard in game week 32, and then play my bench boost in double game week 33. So it looks likely that double game week 33 will be the biggest double game week this season. Will be a big blank in the following game week in blank game week 34, and I plan to use my free hits in this game week. I've used my wildcard already. What now? I think you can navigate blank game week 31. You can set up a solid team for game week 33 as well. I think that potentially this can be a good game week to use the bench boosts, even though you already used your wildcard. So if you don't have your wildcard, use your transfers to navigate blank game week 31. You can potentially have 3 players with no fixture on your bench, and they will be ready for double game week 33. Player bench boost in double game week 33, and then free hit in blank game week 34. At least this would have been something I would consider. Muyasashi 32, who would you start between Munoz and Krupi Jr.? Ooh, I would actually be tempted to start Krupi Jr. and bench Munoz, especially if you have any attacking Man United players like Mbumo or Bruno Fernandes. So Munoz, considering that he played 90 minutes yesterday as well. Crystal Palace, they haven't really looked good recently, so Krupi Jr. would actually be higher on my list compared to Munoz for game week 28. I know Munoz, he has done well recently. Got 9 points, was it, in game week 27 as well, but for game week 28, I would actually bench Munoz and start Krupi. I have 0 now. Should I save the transfer? Yes, I think that saving up a couple of transfers heading into game week 31 is a good idea. So keep the players that you have most value tied up in. Like, for me, this is definitely Erling Haaland and Gabriel Rice. I have some value tied up in Rice as well, so I can potentially actually keep Rice and have him on my bench for blank game week 31. But still some game weeks to go. We're just heading into game week 28 this evening, so let's wait and see what happens in 29 and 30 before locking in the moves ahead of blank game week 31. But at least it's something to consider, starting to offload players from Crystal Palace, Wolves, Man City and Arsenal. Damn, you guys really think Haaland is going to return? You're not confident, Sonny? Are you telling me that Erling Haaland will blank? He is the favorite in the captain poll as well, 54%. Bruno Fernandes, 26%. Igor Thiago, only 8%. I'm a bit surprised to see Igor Thiago only sitting at 8% of the votes so far. Other category has 13%. So if you go and vote for other, please let me know in the chat who will be your captain. Frank O'Brien, Alisson, Dubravka, Gabriel O'Reilly, Van Dijk, Munoz, Hill, Rice, Bruno Fernandes, Semenyo, Enzo, Wilson, Thiago, and Haaland. And Joao Pedro in the starting 11 as well, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is a lot of players. Bench 4. Okay. So you should definitely start Alisson Becker in goal. Gabriel, O'Reilly, Van Dijk should probably start. Munoz can easily be benched this game week. So Munoz on the bench with Enzo Fernandes. So for me, it's actually between Joao Pedro and Hill for that last spot on the bench. So Munoz easily benched. Enzo Fernandes against Arsenal can be benched as well. Joao Pedro, really good form. So even though the fixture is tough for Chelsea and Joao Pedro, I think that he should at least start ahead of Enzo Fernandes. So for me, it's actually between Hill and Joao Pedro. Bournemouth at home against Sunderland, really good fixture, but you would be really, really annoyed if Joao Pedro actually did something against Arsenal and you have Joao Pedro on your bench and a starting 4 million defender in your team if you blank. So for your own sanity, it probably makes sense to just have Hill first on the bench with Joao Pedro in your starting 11. However, you would of course feel genius if Hill picks up a clean sheet, potentially defensive contribution points, and Joe Pedro blanks against Arsenal. But it's really close between Hill and Joe Pedro, but I would easily bench Munoz and Enzo Fernandez this game week. Four hours and 18 minutes until the deadline. So I'm going a bit earlier than usual with this stream because I have other plans later, so can't sit through the deadline. So starting a bit earlier than usual. So thanks all for joining in. Please consider giving the stream a like if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that as well. That would be really, really appreciated. And if you want to have your team reviewed, head over to X, post a picture under my latest post, and we'll get your team up on the screen. Let's see. So on the screen at the moment, my current game week 28 team, it's close to being locked in. I've already made 3 transfers, sold my goalkeeper Sanchez to bring in Kelleher. I went for Wilson in midfield, sold Enzo Fernandez to Harry Wilson, and up front I sold Jared Bowen to bring in Ekitike. So my plan was actually to bring in Florian Wirtz for Enzo Fernandez, but considering the injury to Florian Wirtz, I really wanted to have Liverpool attacking cover, so Jared Bowen to Ekitike. So I had Jared Bowen in my team playing against Van Dijk, so I wasn't really satisfied with this, so I actually sold Jared Bowen to bring in Ekitike. So 3 free transfers made ahead of game week 28, and hopefully it will be another green arrow. The captaincy is still not 100% locked in for me. Currently, it's on Erling Haaland. I'm really considering Bruno Fernandes as well, and I'm still a bit tempted to take a punt on Igor Thiago. So in the captain poll, Erling Haaland is the favorite with 51%, Bruno Fernandes 26%, and it's 12% for Igor Thiago, 12% for other as well. So Bruno Fernandes getting a bit closer to Erling Haaland. We've had a couple of extra votes for Igor Thiago as well, but let's see. Let's have this up for 10 more minutes and see what happens. So Frank O'Brien, to answer your question, I would definitely bench Dubravka, Munoz, and Enzo Fernandez, and then it's a really close decision between Joe Pedro and Hill, but I would probably just have Hill first on my bench. What rank are you in the world? Let's have a quick look. Well, that was really quick. Sorry. So my rank at the moment is 413k, so not really where I want to be at this point, but still a lot of game weeks to be played, so hopefully I can get at least inside the top 100k in game week 38, potentially with a bit of luck, and by playing my chips right, I can potentially still make it inside the top 50k as well. So I had a terrible start this season. I actually was ranked 9.5 million after game week 1, so I had some really good FPL, some proven FPL assets, but all went wrong in game week 1, so at least I have climbed 9 million spots since game week 1. Arian Frias, who would you bench between Cash and Hill? I think I would start Cash. This will give you a player this evening as well. I think Aston Villa, they are probably a bit underrated. They have gone a bit under the radar so far this season. They are actually top 3 still. And I think they can potentially do well against Wolves this evening. So Cash, starter for Aston Villa with attacking threat. So Cash in the starting 11 with Hill first on the bench. Sean Moran, I've broke into the top 100k for the first time ever. Wow. Congratulations. Hopefully you can stay inside the top 100k. Hopefully I can get inside the top 100k myself. Florian Wirtz out, best replacement. Yes, he will most probably be out for game week 28. And so, of course, I have actually answered this question early on in the stream as well. I think I have to say something similar. So if you don't have any Liverpool cover, I think that Szoboszlai probably is a really good replacement for Florian Wirtz. He will play a bit more advanced potentially, and he's on set pieces for Liverpool. But when it comes to value, I think that Harry Wilson and Django Otara are really good value at only 5.9. So you can potentially downgrade Florian Wirtz to one of those 5.9 midfielders to free up some funds as well. Or play Calvert-Lewin against Man City. I think I would potentially just sell Florian Wirtz. We haven't really gotten any time frame, so he might actually be out for game week 28 and potentially miss game week 29 as well. So quick turnaround between game week 28 and game week 29. So it's not a really good sign that he will be out. And if he's not on the bench this game week, I think it looks threatening for Florian Wirtz when we take game week 29 into consideration as well. So potentially a sell, to be honest. Gakpo punt, low owned. So 4 game weeks ago, I would say yes, but there was something about both Gakpo and Mo Salah after they was subbed off early in game week 27, but he will potentially start. Gakpo punt. Why not? If it's between Cody Gakpo and Szoboszlai, I would probably go Szoboszlai, but I haven't really checked Szoboszlai's ownership. Let's have a quick look. Szoboszlai priced at 6.8, so he's below 10%. Szoboszlai is owned by 8.6% of the managers, so he is a differential, while Gakpo, he is a bit more expensive and ownership of 5.5%. So it's not that much between Gakpo and Szoboszlai when we consider their ownership. So considering the price, considering the expected minutes and potential for defensive contributions as well. So I would probably go Soboslai ahead of Cody Gakpo. Good afternoon, Graham Pricey. Thanks for joining in. Good afternoon. I have Rice, Semenyo, Mbumo, Rogers, and Django Ouattara up front. Ekitike, Haaland, and Thiago. Who should I bench from my midfield? So Rice, Semenyo, Mbumo, Rogers, and Django Ouattara. So you should definitely start your forwards. Ekitike at home against West Ham could be a really good fixture. Haaland as well, playing against Leeds, and Igor Thiago with a good fixture against the worst defense. So it has to be someone from your midfield. And I think I would actually consider benching Rice against Chelsea. Mbumo at home against Crystal Palace. Tired legs for Crystal Palace. They played yesterday. So Rogers playing this evening against Wolves. Django Ouattara against, as I mentioned, with Igor Thiago, the worst defense. So I think I would actually bench Rice. Tough decision, but Rice is the one I would put on my bench. What do you think about this team with a wildcard? Petrovic in goal, Kelleher, so a rotation with your goalkeepers, Van Dijk, Senesi, Hill, O'Reilly, Gabriel in defense, Schade, Rice, Bruno Fernandes, Wilson, Semenyo up front, Haaland, Ekitike, Thiago. I really like this wildcard team, to be honest. It's close. I have actually made a wildcard video ahead of GW28, and it's really, really close to this team. I think instead of having Petrovic and Kelleher, I think I had something like Martinez, Dubravka. But if you like rotating your goalkeepers, then Petrovic, Kelleher is definitely a really strong goalkeeping duo going forward. So you have cover with Van Dijk, Senesi, Hill, O'Reilly, Gabriel. So let's have a quick look at this team for blank game week 31. So Erling Haaland, he will blank. We have Semenyo, Rice, Gabriel. So you have actually 5 players blanking. So what I would actually consider dropping Rice on a wildcard this game week, considering you have Semenyo, Haaland, you have Gabriel in as well. Can potentially go for someone like... I think this is one of the reasons why I actually had Martinez, Dubravka in goal on my wildcard. I discussed this in the video. It's linked in the description down below. But I would consider something like Rice to... Can bring in a Bournemouth midfielder like Tavernier, just have him on the bench ready for game week 29. So Tavernier, he is the talisman for Bournemouth. He was injured, but he played 10 minutes in game week 27. So of course, we're not sure how many minutes he will play, or if he will start on the bench or start in game week 28. But Tavernier on a wildcard could be a really, really good option. So with this team, you have actually 4 players that will blank in blank game week 31. So potentially drop Rice. Joshua, good afternoon. Thanks for joining in. Yukesh edits. I have Raya, Sanchez, Senesi, Cash, Gabriel, Michele, Richards, Harry Wilson, Soboslai, Rogers, Bruno Fernandes, Enzo Fernandes in midfield, Pedro, Krupi Jr. and Haaland. Looking to get Konate for Michele, Sanchez out for Kelleher, and Enzo to Django Ouattara. Sounds good. I did something similar actually ahead of this game week. I have sold Enzo Fernandes, I have sold Sanchez, I brought in Kelleher, I brought in Harry Wilson. But seeing that you already have Harry Wilson in your team, it makes sense to bring in Django Ouattara. So Yukesh edits. It's a big yes. from me. Thank you. I have some doubts about Schade, his minutes. If you have doubts over Schade, he's priced at 6.9, so paying that price for a Brentford midfielder, you would actually want the player to play close to 90 minutes week in, week out, to be honest. But I think from what I read that Kevin Schade is close to nailed on for Brentford, to be honest. But nothing guaranteed, of course. Other options you can potentially consider if you don't want Rice is to actually bring in Szoboszlai. I'm sorry, instead of Schade is to go for Szoboszlai. So instead of Rice, Kevin Schade, you can go for Django, Tara, and Szoboszlai. So there are a lot of good options. It's not much between them, to be honest. So it's not really easy to decide between Kevin Schade, Django, or Tara. But at this point, I think that considering the value of Django Tara, I think that he probably is a bit better compared to Kevin Schade. But if they were priced the same, I would probably go Kevin Schade. Holland still the favorite, 57%, 22 for Bruno, so he's gone a bit down, 10 for Igor Thiago, and 10 for the other category as well. So a couple of new votes for Erling Haaland. He is by far the favorite, 57%. He's currently my captain as well. So my team is pretty close to locked in. Made 3 transfers already. Still not 100% sure about the captaincy, but leaning towards playing it safe with Erling Haaland. So maybe a bit boring, but against Leeds away, this can potentially be a really good fixture for Man City's and Erling Haaland. So my transfers ahead of game week 28, I sold Jared Bowen to bring in Ekitike. I sold Enzo Fernandez to bring in Harry Wilson, and I actually sold my goalkeeper Sanchez to bring in Kelleher. So this stream a bit earlier than usual, so the deadline is 4 hours away, so 4 hours until the game week 28 deadline. So going a bit earlier, I have some plans later, so not able to sit through the actual deadline. But thanks all for joining in. Please consider giving the stream a like, and if you enjoy streams like this and weekly FPL videos, please consider subscribing to the channel as well. My captain is Semenyo. Nice. He can be a really good option as well for game week 28. So playing against Leeds away can potentially be one of those fixtures that Semenyo does really well. So not the worst option, to be honest. So Semenyo against Leeds, captain punt. Not the worst idea. What were your 3 free transfers? Because that's what it says in the description. Yeah, so I used 3 transfers ahead of game week 28. I sold Jared Bowen to bring in Ekitike. This is the first one. I sold Enzo Fernandez to bring in Harry Wilson. This is the second one. And the last transfer is my goalkeeper. I sold Sanchez to bring in Kelleher. So 3 transfers made. So in the graphic in the top left corner, it's actually, I haven't updated this one, should have done this before starting the stream, but I actually have, I have nothing in the bank and no free transfers left. So 3 transfers, Ekitike is in, Wilson is in, Keller is in, and I've sold Sanchez, Enzo Fernandez, and Jared Bowen. We'll be live for another 5 minutes. If you're interested in last team review, head over to X, post a picture of your team, and we'll get it up on the screen. Let's see if we have any new teams posted on X. Of course, if you just want to write your team in the chat, that's completely fine as well. New post from the official Fantasy Premier League. The clock is ticking. 4 hours until the early deadline on Friday the 27th. So 4 hours left until the deadline. Jacob, do we know what's going on with West? We're not sure. We don't have any time frame for his injury, but we know that he has some back problems, and he got this in the warm-up ahead of game week 27. So he will most probably miss game week 28. The thing is that there is a quick turnaround between game week 28 and game week 29. So the game week 29 deadline is on Tuesday. So I think he potentially can miss both game week 28 and game week 29, especially if he's not fit enough to be in the squad for game week 28. I think there is a risk that he potentially can miss game week 29. So back problems, he got them in the warm-up ahead of game week 27. Did not play last game week, so we're not sure when he will be back, but potentially not until game week 30. Thoughts on Florian Wirtz to Mbumo, or just bench Florian Wirtz and play double Bournemouth defense against Sunderland? I think, considering the fact that I just talked about Florian Wirtz and the potential that he can miss 2 game weeks, I think that taking a punt on Mbumo probably is a good idea. So playing against a tired Crystal Palace, they played in the Europa Conference League yesterday as well. So Mbumo can potentially do really, really well this game week. So I think I would actually consider selling Florian Wirtz. I have had a couple of similar questions, and I think Szoboszlai potentially can be a good replacement as well, especially if we don't have any other Liverpool players. So really good fixture for Liverpool playing at home against West Ham. So if we don't have Ekitike, I think Szoboszlai potentially could be a good Florian Wirtz replacement. Isaac, thanks for joining in. Current team is Raya Dubravka, Joachim Andersen, Hill, Michele, Munoz, Gabriel, Rice, Enzo, NGI, Sar, Bruno in midfield, and up front Ekitike, Thiago, and Erling Haaland. On one free transfer and 0.1 in the bank. So let's have a look. So you have, I think Michele can potentially be sold. Munoz as well. Enzo Fernandez, I think you potentially can. So let's see, on the bench this game week, you will have Michele, Munoz, and Enzo. Yeah, I think you actually should consider making a transfer. So potentially Enzo Fernandez can be sold. Munoz as well if you don't have any plans for blank game week 31. So Munoz is one of those players that don't have the best upcoming fixtures. Not really good team form for Crystal Palace. They played yesterday. I think they will struggle against Man United on Sunday. So Munoz can potentially be sold. Mukiele can potentially be back for blank game week 31. So at this point, I actually think that Munoz is more of a priority sell compared to Mukiele. So something like Munoz to Van Dijk. Yeah, I'm also 17 points behind my friend in my mini league. I think I need a captain differential. Any thoughts on this? So there are some interesting captain punts this game week. I really like Igor Thiago. I like Bruno Fernandes as well. We've seen someone mention Semenyo in the chat as well. The safest option will be Erling Haaland, but as mentioned, I think Bruno Fernandes, Igor Thiago, even Ekitike could be really interesting captain punts this game week if you want to be a bit different. Oops, accidentally typed twice. Sorry, no worries. Which of them on the bench? Harry Wilson, Gabriel Semenyo, Rice, Django Schade, Szoboszlai. It's a big risk with 3 defenders from Bournemouth, Petrovic, Hill, and Senesi. So, of course, tripling up on one particular defense is always a bit of a risk. It's really, really disappointing, especially if you watch that game and if they concede a goal. But of course, tripling up on the Bournemouth defense at home against Sunderland, it's not the worst idea. It will be a massive differential, and you will potentially get at least 18 points from those 3 players if they keep a clean sheet. So, I like all of those other options as well. Wilson, Gabriel, Semenyo, Rice, Django, Schade, Szoboszlai. But the one I probably would bench is Hill. I think it's enough doubling up on the Bournemouth defense, so Hill would probably be the one I would put on the bench, to be honest. Of course, if you want to take a risk, you can just avoid the Arsenal defense by benching Gabriel. They have a tough game against Chelsea, and Joe Pedro, good form, can potentially score against Arsenal. Of course, they haven't really been that impressive defensively, so I think that if if Arsenal keep a clean sheet, your rank will possibly take a hit because there are still a lot of teams with double and triple Arsenal defense, especially with Raya, Gabriel, a lot of teams with Timber in. So if Arsenal keep a clean sheet and you don't own any Arsenal defenders, it will be at least your other players have to really, really deliver to avoid a red arrow. So I think with those players, I would probably just double up on the Bournemouth defense, play Gabriel, and bench Hill for game week 28. So it's 3 hours, 50 minutes until the deadline. I have to go in a couple of minutes. So this stream been a bit earlier than usual because I have some plans, so not able to have a deadline stream on the actual deadline ahead of game week 28. So, but if you enjoy the content, please consider giving the stream a like, and if you enjoy streams like this, please consider subscribing to the channel as well. I usually have a Q&A always the night before the deadline. So I had one yesterday as well, Thursday night Q&A because of the Friday deadline. So the deadline is usually on Saturday. So on this channel, it's usually a Friday night Q&A. As mentioned, going a bit earlier, couple of hours earlier than usual with this stream because I have some other plans later this evening. So if you're interested, please subscribe to the channel. 5F20, hi, thanks for joining in. Bench 2 of Hall, Guehi, Gabriel, Timber, and Hill. I would start Gabriel, bench Timber, so it's between Lewis, Hall, Guehi, and Hill. So bench Timber, bench Hill, start Gabriel, Hall, and Guehi. The thing is that Hill, good fixture playing at home against Sunderland, but Timber, it's actually a minute's risk, so he can easily be benched. I think that Timber at some point should be sold, especially ahead of blank game week 31 as well. So start Rice or Elliot Anderson. I would actually start Rice. I think that Anderson is a solid option, but he will most probably just get 4 points. Rice, I think, even though playing against Chelsea, I think that Rice, he has actually looked good recently. He's taking corners for Arsenal. So I would start Rice and bench Elliot Anderson. At least this is what I'm doing for my own team. So on the screen at the moment is my team ahead of game week 28. It's really close to being locked in. I made 3 free transfers. I sold Enzo Bowen to bring in Ekitike. I sold my midfielder Enzo Fernandez to bring in Harry Wilson. And I actually sold the Chelsea goalkeeper Sanchez to bring in Kelleher. At the moment, my captain is Erling Haaland. He is the favorite in the poll as well. 60% for Erling Haaland, 22% for Bruno Fernandes. So a huge gap, 42% gap between Erling Haaland and Bruno Fernandes. Orange Apple, thanks for joining in. Timber to Van Dijk is done. Nice. Now needs your opinion. Enzo to Harry Wilson, Django Tara, or Ryan. So similar to my transfers, I have actually made my decision on the Enzo replacement. I went for Harry Wilson. The reason why I transferred in Wilson instead of Django Tara is actually the fact that I already have attacking cover from Brentford with Igor Thiago. So I brought in Ekitike for Enzo Bowen. I went for Harry Wilson as my Enzo Fernandez replacement because I don't really have any other attacking assets from Fulham. So by bringing in Harry Wilson, you can cover both the Fulham and Brentford attack. They have really good fixtures going forward, Fulham as well. And in blank game week 31, they play against Burnley. So Harry Wilson. So I actually thought that Harry Wilson had even higher ownership. I have seen him a lot on X, but his ownership is only around 20%. So it's not like Harry Wilson is plain template. So Harry Wilson still a really, really good option. Of course, if you want to chase the differentials, Django Tara only around 2% ownership. So I still think that if you have Igor Thiago, Harry Wilson is the best Enzo Fernandez replacement. Exactly my thoughts. I really like Django, but double Brentford is slightly overkill. Plus with Tavernier back, I suppose Ryan minutes are a bit up in there. Exactly the same thoughts as I had when I made my transfers. So I might actually bring in one of those players. I might sell Rice ahead of game with 21. Tavernier is on the watch list. Django is still on the watch list as well. But let's wait and see what happens in game week 28. So I might actually sell Rice ahead of game week 29. But at this point, I will just play Rice against Chelsea and see what happens. So at the moment, I have 4 players that will blank in blank game week 31. I have a double up on Arsenal with Gabriel and Rice. I have Erling Haaland and I have Mosquera blanking as well. So what I'm looking at in the next couple of game weeks is to downgrade or probably upgrade Mosquera to Hill. So Mosquera is priced at 4.3, Hill only 4 million. So this is a solid transfer. Rice will probably be sold as well. And as mentioned, I'm looking at players like Django Tara and possibly Tavernier. Are you tempted of a different captain instead of Hallam? Definitely tempted. I'm really tempted to go for Bruno Fernandes, considering the fact that Crystal Palace played in the Europa Conference League yesterday, so they will probably be tired on Sunday playing at the Old Trafford against Man United. So I'm really tempted to go for a differential captain. So I said this a couple of times. My team is pretty much locked in, but the captaincy still not 100% decided. Might still change the captaincy from Erling Haaland to Bruno Fernandes. Do you like this replacement? Rice, Shada to Mbumo and Django Tara. Yes, I think I would prefer having Mbumo and Django Tara instead of Rice and Kevin Schade for game week 28. Brandon Chan, Palmer, Pedro, and Mane to Igor Thiago, Ekitike, and Mbumo. Yes, especially if you can do those moves without a hit. I would definitely consider those moves. Brandon. Orange Apple, if I do Enzo to Wilson, I do have one more free transfer and could upgrade Alderete, Evan or Lewis Miley. Worth it or not? I'd have 1.2 million in the bank. I think potentially replacing Aiden Heaven at this point to someone like Hill potentially is worth a transfer at this point. Will strengthen your squad. Heaven, I'm not really sure how many game weeks he will start going forward. So, but is it worth using a transfer just for this? I think I would probably just save the transfer and have more information ahead of game week 29, to be honest. Phil, Rice and Tavernier, or Enzo and Harry Wilson? Ooh. I think I would like to say Rice and Harry Wilson, but I think I would probably go Rice and Tavernier. So with the information we have at this point, Tavernier, he's training. He's the talisman for Bournemouth at the moment. He has been injured, but he played 10 minutes last game week. So Rice, Tavernier. I don't really like Enzo Fernandez going forward. So if it has to be one of those combinations, I would actually say Rice and Tavernier, even though my favorite would be Rice and Harry Wilson. Do you prefer Heaven to Hill or Miley to Ryan, or just keep one free transfer? I think, as mentioned, I think I would just keep the one free transfer and have two free transfers heading into game week 29 with a bit more information available. We're already making transfers, so keeping that one last free transfers can potentially be a good thing. We might get injuries, suspensions, stuff like that might happen in game week 28. So you might be really glad that you actually saved this move ahead of game week 29. Yeah, I think I may just save. Only worry is one more price rise from Ryan, and I can't do Miley to him anymore. Oh, I see. You can potentially bring in Turner. He might play close to 90 minutes this game week and be nailed on for the upcoming game weeks as well. I think Mbeumo, he is a solid option. I would just stick with him. But as mentioned, time is running out. It's still 3 hours and 38 minutes until the deadline, but I have some other plans, so have to shut down the stream a bit earlier than usual. So thanks all for joining in. Hopefully game week 28 will be a good one.